Linda won't be here till 11:30, because that's when we eat. Go to lunch. Yeah, are you going to lunch?
I don't know. Takes a village.
Takes a village. What the hell's going on with this cup? Pardon?
Where's sister's
at? That one down by Mongo's, or whatever that is.
Down by the
Thai place.
Thai place?
We should go there.
Oh, I can do that.
Cool. Excellent.
Oh, that's what
Good deal. Sister Kitchen does that. Lots of my
I
stuff.
haven't been in a while because Wednesday's,
It's good.
You're good.
Wednesday's my workout day.
All right. I'm practically gone. Now, like I said, thanks for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. We're about to start. All you need is a picture of the counter offer.
I know,
My
I
legs
just,
hurt like a...
I just turned 2 weeks ago.
There's
I did it
one.
Twice in 2
How about
weeks,
that?
because it takes me a week to.
3 times a week in the first day.
Full screen. So glad I got the full screen button back up. So all right, thanks for showing up, everybody. Welcome to Forms. And today, I promised Kristen, because she's the only one that ever asked, what are you going to do Wednesday? That we drink coffee. I mean, that we do the, something's going on with this cup, and I don't have to clean every table in here.
Back and forth. Like a bubble.
We do counter offers, so we're gonna do counter offers. Yeah, I'll break off a piece of donut, see if the camera just follows me around the room. Elizabeth?
So the difference between you and I, Gary, is I'm late, but when I get there, I start.
What's that mean?
What are you saying?
I'm late, but when I get there, I start.
Late,
okay?
when I get there, I start, okay.
Your dude flaked out. I heard from
I like the suspense more than the meeting. Okay, cool.
Who's surprised?
Hang in there, donut. Okay, so we're gonna do counter offers. Now, we're going right into counter offers from the listing contract, which pretty much doesn't make any sense, right?
It does.
Because you wouldn't counter offer a listing, right? But it does, because the tools of the listing agent are the listing agreement and the counter offer form. Because we don't, as listing agents, we don't write offers. We have people that do that for us. Called, whatever they call them. Yeah, you just have your buyer's agent write all your offers. Why are you
That's
bothered,
usually me,
right?
so.
Yeah, got the big team, you're the rainmaker. You don't write offers. You write offers for your special people by having somebody come in and do it while you sit there.
I know some of them.
And that all happens later. Yeah, a lot of people. For the rest of us, we write our offers. Oh, you're gonna do it. Okay, I'm with you now. Right? I keep going, oh, wait a minute, where the hell's my damn form? Okay, so the tools of listing agent, listing agreement, and the counter offer, which is why I really wanted to be a listing agent when I first started in real estate, because the listing contract was 1 page. So was the counter offer. I had to master 2 pages, not 4, 2.
So it's a lot easier than getting started.
It was great. They were 14-inch pages, but they were virtually blank. You just composed everything. Those were the days. So we can go back to the counter offer for a moment. I need to reference the form. Can I see that thing in the mirror?
Yeah.
Kinda. So do I do it or you do it?
You got it. When you go to forms, you just.
That's all me? Just like that. How about that? Okay. All right. So you're the listing agent. Somebody writes you an offer, right? So who makes the offer? What party to the contract is making the offer?
The buyers.
The buyer. So the buyer's going to make an offer. Buyer's agent's going to write it. Might be you, might not. We'll assume, for purposes of our presentation and discussion, it's not you. It's somebody else writing the offer.
Or so.
So that's why the first counter offer that would ever happen in a deal would be the seller counter offer, because the listing, which I like to think of it this way, is and the property display on the internet and the MLS and all that stuff. That's the seller's first offer. That's an offer to the marketplace. Here's my house, $700 to you. So the buyer basically, and to me it helps people understand that counter offers are new offers, not parts of old offers. So the buyer makes a counter offer, basically called the purchase offer. It's a counter offer to the seller's offer to the marketplace. Is that complicated? Or?
No.
I mean, it made perfect sense to me because I've been saying it to myself for years and
I
years.
understand it. It sounds a little convoluted, but.
Well, only when I tell it. Yeah, right. So the listing is an offer to the marketplace, and the buyer makes basically a counter offer. The buyer makes an offer back to the seller going, I love your house, here's $650. And you're off and running, right? So when the seller makes a counter offer to the buyer, that's another new offer. Seller makes an offer to the marketplace, buyer makes an offer to the seller. Seller doesn't like everything about that offer. So the seller makes a new offer by with a contract term called novation to the buyer. You better get that donut off the mouse pad. All right, and we're back. Get out of there. Stop it. Oops, a little bit too far. I should just use the arrows. They kind of work better. One moment, please. Okay, so we got our seller counter offer number one. And this, we can use a lot of the stuff we already know he does.
Hey Casey, is there a way to move the microphone?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
who would have thought?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
I could just flip it all the way over this way and then I could just talk to both of them at once. Thanks. So, using some of the stuff we already know about contracts, right? So we have seller counter offer number one. And there's a little hint right there, I just noticed that right now, may not be used as a multiple counter offer. They put that in for the old guys like me. We didn't used to have a multiple counter offer. We had to sort of make it up till we got the multiple counter offer, but we'll get to that. So they're reminding the old guys like me, it's like, no, not this one. This is the counter offer, you old fool. So right up there, in the top right, I guess it's looking to you like that. Yeah, okay. There's a place for a date. So what date is that, I wonder?
The date that
The
your
day you
contract
write
is
this
with.
counter
Date
offer.
prepared, right? Yeah. Yeah. So then shortly thereafter, there's another box. So you have the prepared date, and it says this is a counter offer to it could be a counter offer to the purchase agreement, or it could be a counter offer to the buyer counter offer number so-and-so. And I don't know what the other one is, or what. I don't know. You're either countering an offer or a counter offer. I don't know what the hell else you'd be countering. I don't know what could wind up in there. Someday I'll ask somebody and they'll probably have an idea. So it says this counter offer to the purchase agreement, buyer counter offer, whatever it is, buyer counter offer number blank so that you can kind of keep them straight. Dated, what's that date?
The date of the original offer.
Date of the original offer, yeah, if we were gonna counter
RPA.
the offer, that would be the date of the RPA. So what date would that be? The date you got it, the date they wrote it? What date do we always use in there for a reference date?
Date on the RPA.
Date prepared, up in the top
Upper
left
left corner.
I should just graduate you all right now. That's the
So
hardest
I
thing
have a
ever.
quick question that's
Sure.
skipping ahead, but yet.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it's actually, there's a lot of
are you
blanks, so we
like-
could probably go quite a ways.
3 counteroffers in.
Yep.
Are you always referencing the original purchase agreement there, right there with the date prepared?
So.
Are you referencing the one right before that you're countering? It's probably the one right before, right? If like, let's say the
Yes, it
buyer's
is.
counteroffer after this.
So you have a date
Is
prepared
that-
on whatever form you're using, right? And then you have, this is a counteroffer to what? You can't check all the boxes, you gotta pick one, right?
Right.
So if you were on seller counteroffer number 3, and you were countering buyer counteroffer number 2, right? It would be buyer counteroffer number 2 dated and a prepared date from the buyer counteroffer, yep.
Okay, so you're
Just make it
always
make sense.
referencing the one right before you, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could just complicate the hell out of anything, anytime. I could
I
complicate
just
that.
remember I stumbled over.
daylights out of that.
last time.
Yep.
Sorry.
I forget. Yes,
Good.
you can't reach it from there
I
though.
know, darn it.
One of these days I'll learn that I should get another cup for Rebecca. Not much left here. I was virtually napping when I got here this morning. There you go. You're welcome. Oh, and something's going on with that cup. You might need those, yeah. And a little piece of donut while you're at it. Okay. So, great question. Yeah, you skipped ahead a little bit, but actually that's the paragraph we were in. The paragraph I like to call the recital paragraph, so that you can remember what the hell you were doing. That's why all these addendums and everything else have a little paragraph at the top to go, this is a form about a form and a thing with these people and that day and that kind of stuff. So you don't have to go, have the entire stack and you're on page 412, counteroffer number 11 or whatever it is. You don't have to go all the way back to figure out what the hell you're doing. It'll say right in the recital paragraph of whatever form you're on, kind of a clue as to where you're at in this grand scheme of things. I do have a, I don't know what I'll call it, just a personal preference maybe or something like that. Usually, unless you're just dickering about price, instead of writing counter offer number 5, I'll write a new offer. I'm getting tired of keeping track of the counter offers by about the 4th one. So that is just something I learned a long time ago that made sense. But I think too, if you're only talking about price, as long as you can keep them,
Yeah.
in order and pay attention, you're at $650, $699, $657, $682.5. Blah. Okay, you can figure that out. Well, there's all kinds of crap in there about, and the seller's going to stay in possession after. Well, we want $100 a day for that. You kind of got to keep that straight. So it's okay, because the counter offer is a new offer, to counter, and I would do it as the buyer's agent or request the buyer's agent to do it, to instead of counter offer number 5, tell them, write me a new offer. Put all the crap in it we've agreed to so far, and if you got something else to say, put it in there and we'll just start over. But you gotta keep that other stack too, because now you got signed documents and all that stuff, so you can't go starting over, okay? Now hang on to that stuff. You'll hear about it later. Cool, okay. That all made sense, I hope. Do I have real world examples for this? I do. So we have the recital paragraph, so we remember what the hell we're doing. And then we have terms, right? One is terms. Well, CAR thinks you need help with the terms, so they have 1A, and that is part of the counteroffer. And 1B is part of the counteroffer. So that's part of every counteroffer you're ever going to write or get or do anything with, unless, my favorite term that shows up all over the place, otherwise agreed. You could actually change like 1B if you thought you needed to in the body of the counteroffer if you didn't like that. 1B doesn't apply or something like that. But let's look at it. And I have a little, I used to call them live fire. It sounds dangerous when I say that. I have a real world example of somebody muffing that. So 1A, well, 1, terms and conditions of the above reference document are accepted subject to the following. And that's why you don't have to write a new 13 pages every time you do that. So it says in paragraph 1, if I'm countering an RPA, everything in the RPA that I don't change lives on in the new offer. And then if it's buyer counter offer number 3, you have to go back through them all and figure out what lived and what died and what stayed and what left and where we're at with that stuff, which is why 4 is my limit. And that basically creates the new offer that you go to escrow with. So terms and conditions of the above referenced document, whether it's an RPA or buyer counter offer or whatever, and if you're referencing buyer counter offer number 2, that referenced seller counter offer number 2, which referenced buyer counter offer number 1, which referenced seller counter offer number 1, which referenced the RPA. So all of them, all the stuff that lived is incorporated in whatever the hell number counter offer we're in here. 1A, paragraphs in the offer, and they just use the term offer, right? Instead of saying in the RPA or counteroffer or something, wherever we're at in the grand scheme of this thing, paragraphs in the offer that require initials by all parties but are not initialed by all parties are excluded from the final agreement unless specifically referenced for inclusion in paragraph 1C, the blank body paragraph, of this or another counteroffer or an addendum. So what, there's basically, the way the RPA exists now, is there only two? I think there's only two. There's only two paragraphs that require initials by all parties. Anybody?
Arbitration.
Arbitration?
Mediation, arbitration.
Mediation's a standalone paragraph with no initial
Okay.
spaces, yeah. They kind of sneak it in there between, the other one I'm thinking of, 21A, and 22B or some crap, like liquidated damages and arbitration. Yeah, two separate paragraphs, both of them have to be initialed by all parties to be included in the deal. So if the buyer sends an RPA and liquidated damages is initialed and arbitration is not initialed, and the seller thinks arbitration is a good idea, what does the seller have the seller's agent do? Put it in the counteroffer. We could reference the missing paragraph for inclusion in paragraph 1C of this or another counteroffer. So you just talk about it in the counteroffer. So Saturday, August 3rd, 2019, according to that heading, that's how come I know it's the right email. The transaction coordinator, never think you're not smarter than the transaction coordinator. Not very many of them practice real estate. And not very many of them have had extensive forms training. Or not very many of them actually go to the forms training, like when Gov Hutchison shows up, or when they rolled out the new RPA in 2014 and they made every member of every board go to like a 4-hour class because it was fraught with changes and pitfalls and traps and what have you. Not everybody goes. And then the way you learn stuff kind of sticks with you until somebody tells you, you know, that's okay, I don't want to die on that hill, but you're wrong. Which is one of my favorite things to tell transaction coordinators ever. But you got to do it, you know. When you tell somebody to go to hell, you hope they look forward to the trip. You know, right? So we started negotiating this deal on July 31st, if I remember right, because that listing expired like midnight July 31st. So we start the deal on July 31st, and now Amy and her crew are disappointed because they'll never get credit in the MLS for doing that deal. Listing expired. It's just too hard to put them back in. I hate that. So anyway, we put the deal together. Before then, so let's just say August 2nd, we put the deal together. Right? So Amy, transaction coordinator on Lindsay Harn's behalf, Harn, right? Says, would you mind having the seller's initial by arbitration? Okay, that was like 3 documents ago, and it's all signed. So I told her, because I'm such a peach, I certainly could, and I will if you have to have it. Sometimes the broker is less adept. I was going to say dumber than, but I thought more naive. I don't know, just learn something wrong, I guess. Sometimes they learn more stuff wrong than the transaction coordinator, but they own the company, so they tell them what to do. So I said I certainly could have the seller go back and initial that, and I will if you have to have it. But it's totally unnecessary and incorrect to go back and change a signed form, in case you were wondering. And if anybody ever gives you shit about that again, 5-second delay, right? Maybe not. We're live. I should have told you. Sorry.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't know. Now we're Tom Ferry's, yeah. So I'm going to get all my swearing out of the way. Totally unnecessary and incorrect to go back and change a signed form, semicolon, pause. If you read paragraph 1A of any of the counteroffer forms, the correct way to handle missed initials is explained there, and we've already done that. Because in my counteroffer, I put arbitration back in like you're supposed to, and then totally expected that email to come right on its heels. And it did. So that's just because you know how to do it. That's also to demonstrate that a lot of people don't. And you might get a call from their broker to your broker going, I don't know what the hell's the matter with that Rebecca. Who won't, not enough coffee, who won't go back and have the seller initial over a 3-day-old signature. Well, yeah, you know what, don't worry about it, Fred, we'll just do it. Just do it. Die on some other hill. You haven't broken the law or anything. You've done it wrong, which bothers some people, but yeah, it's all right. Everybody will live. Not at all. Where would that thing be? I guess we'd be here somewhere. Okay. So we're good on that. We'll go look at all the examples later. Yeah, that'll make more sense. Do it in the end instead of like toggling back and forth and trying to find out what in the hell I did with that one form that I saved in that one place, that Bandcamp. The other thing that we're glad or I'm glad anyway, we may not be, I am, that's in part of paragraph 1, the pre-printed default terms, is that you don't ever have to worry about doing the math on the down payment and loan amount. So when somebody writes an offer and it's an FHA deal and it's 3.5% down, and they're offering $475,000, and you guys wind up finishing through a series of counter offers that say 510. Unless otherwise agreed in writing, like they always say, down payment and loan amounts will be adjusted in the same proportion as in the original offer. Deposit amounts shall remain unchanged. So we have to make sure we know the difference between a deposit and a down payment, right? Which can be confusing because a deposit basically is part of the down payment or not. And a VA loan, a deposit could be totally returned intact at the end if it was a zero down loan, which probably didn't help explain anything at all. So unless otherwise agreed in writing, down payment and loan amounts will be adjusted in the same proportion. So if your seller really likes an offer that somebody wrote because they have 30% down, it's a $900,000 deal, they got $300 down, and you guys settle at $1 million for the property, that down payment automatically goes up to $330,000. They better have the other 30. Because when they sign your counter offer that said, hey, the new price is $1 million, they go, yeah, we're good. Down payments and loan amounts, it's right on the form, will be adjusted in the same proportion as in the original offer. So they need another 30 grand down to comply, to actually be, like in the contract. And if your seller goes, we got 4 offers at 20% down, this guy's at 30, I'm really liking the 30. Well, we don't raise the price and watch his down payment ratio drop. You know what I mean?
Right.
All with me on that? Yeah, because we like the 30%, keep the 30%. Well, it's an automatic function of the form to make them come up with more money. So you don't ever have to worry about doing the math or anything like that. And you'll see it, agents will do the math. Because most agents read this part. Really easy to read when you start because there's nothing there, and then you write stuff in and you read that, and you don't read any of the rest of it, which is why they'll ask you, can you have your seller go back and write on that contract from a week ago? Oh, no, you don't have to. It's right there. It's actually an 8-point bold. I'm just saying. And you can get it in like 7 languages. In fact, I always say Tagalog wrong, or Tagalog, or whatever it is. You can get these forms in Filipino. I always thought that was something. Probably only in California.
Probably.
I thought that was cool. I kind of want to read one of those Tagalog forms just to see what it looks like. One of these days I will. Okay, so we have 1A talks about liquidated damages in arbitration. Usually that's about the only thing that is affected by that. 1B says, hey, if they're 3.5% down FHA and you raise them 25 grand on the price, they have to have the difference. Their down payment is automatically bigger, and if they can't swing it, somebody better say something. Because we're going to have to think of something. Or the buyer's going to have to address it in the counteroffer. It's like, okay, so maybe we had a 5% down FHA deal, and you wind up, when you increase the price on them as the seller, then maybe the buyer has to come back and say, because it says unless otherwise agreed. So then the buyer comes back and says, okay, I'll pay your 5 1/4, but I've only got 3.5% down now. I don't have 5 of that. It's got to be in there, because if it's not in there, the 5% stands. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Did that make sense? You okay with that? I get a more vigorous nod. Yeah, okay. Thanks. It's kind of important, right? Because it's part of every single counteroffer every time.
And
Be great if somebody ever read it.
the one who's gonna catch it is the underwriter.
Yeah, right? When
When you're trying to
Yeah,
close that
4
escrow.
weeks into
Yeah.
it, about the
You're
time
trying to
they're
close
they're
escrow,
ready
you're
to
gonna go,
kick
"Wait
out
a
the
minute."
closing disclosure, and they find out and they verified funds and all that stuff, and they find out the buyer's like
They're
$5,000 short.
Yeah.
They're wanting your deal.
Yeah.
Why would you wait 4 weeks for that? And don't forget to do the other agent's work all the time, because that's what we do. If you get lucky, the other agent's doing their work all the time, and you don't have to. It's awesome. You know? It's unusual, but awesome. I shouldn't say it's unusual. They made it a little harder to get a license than it used to be when I got mine. All right, so 1A, 1B, and finally 1C, where you get to make up crap. CAR probably hates that there's more than one line there, because you are about to do what?
Change everything.
Practice law. You're allowed to do that in California with very limited parameters. You can write on blanks in CAR contracts. When you create legal and binding agreements, which is what these are, you are practicing law. And everybody, the trainers will tell you all the time, now everybody, we don't practice law. We don't give legal advice. We practice law every day. Every time you fill in a blank with something besides a name, you practice law. State of California says, as long as you're using these contracts and you're a realtor, that's okay, you can do that. We're gonna let you fill these in because we don't know what the hell else to do with you people. You're gonna write shit in,
You're gonna put it in the
spelling's gonna be
margins
wrong and
anyway.
everything. Yeah, there's gonna be, isn't that
That's
the way
what we
it was,
used to
right?
do, right in the margins.
Yeah, because you'd have blanks like on a form, yeah.
We did.
We did not fill these forms out with a keyboard in 1988. We filled them out with a pen. Now I did because I typed them, because my handwriting was like a brain surgeon. So what's the new price? Well, you can't read that? No one can read that, Gary. So they would write here, and some of the handwriting was beautiful, big flowery handwriting. Take like 3 lines to make a capital T. And they come over here, there's not enough room, so right down the side it goes, right in the margins, like around underneath here, going backwards. Yeah, those were the days. These are so cool now. You guys have it so easy now. You could probably voice text the damn contract, right? Open the DocuSign app in your phone, go purchase price to be $450,000, period. Exclamation point. Yeah, I showed that dummy. And then it goes, I showed that dummy right on. Cool. Okay, any questions so far?
No.
I had a question one time. When Neil Kalin was going to do a webinar for CAR, because he's been doing the webinars for quite a while, Neil Kalin and Howard, what's Howard's name? Fullman or something like that. Howard's good. Neil's funnier. But Neil was going to do, he says, okay, we got the new seller multiple counteroffer form. So we're going to do a webinar in there. And I said, I got to see this webinar. How in the hell can they do an hour on one page? They did. It was a brand new form, and they were going to try to teach 180,000 real estate agents how to handle a brand new form that has never been uncomplicated, but was really complicated the day they launched it. In fact, they have a little trouble with that. Sometimes they'll try stuff out on you. Like right up here. Seller counter offer number. There didn't used to be a 1 there. It used to be a blank. That turned into a year-long discussion, argument, battle, difference of opinion between half of the 180,000 realtors in California and the other half. Seller counteroffer number 1 is followed by what? Is it buyer counteroffer number 1 or buyer counteroffer number 2, because it's the second counteroffer in a row? See the fingers? Yeah. A 1, a 2, yep, that's what happened. So CAR goes, class, sit down. And they just put the number in. They go, never mind, never mind.
It's too funny.
Now, it used to be back in the day, it didn't say seller, right? It said counteroffer number blank. That was easy. Odd numbers were sellers, even numbers were buyers, because it was 1, 2, 3, 4, new offer. 1, 2, 3, 4, new offer, right? Because don't do 5. Write the new offer. You might get a little pushback on that, but I mean, it's so much easier to write a new offer now because you just like, you go into or Zip Forms, whatever the hell it is this week, and you just like go, well, the best way to do it if you're going to write a new offer is copy it. And then change the new forms, and you still got all the old forms, so you're still legit. In case you've got them all wet signed, you haven't got them uploaded yet, or some crap like that. I digress. Okay, so let's skip 1C because I'm just going to show you some counteroffers that have been filled out lately to demonstrate the application of paragraph 1C, and we'll go right down to 1D. The following attached addenda, one of those Latin plurals, right, are incorporated into this seller counteroffer. So check could be addendum number 1. Because before we have agreement, if we want to add more language to something or change a little language, you don't have enough room is why you would add an addendum form. So before you have agreement, you addend. After you have agreement, you amend. And that's the way I remember which form to use. Now, other agents, everybody you run into is going to use the addendum no matter what. Fine, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Following attached addenda are incorporated the seller counteroffer addendum number. Could be 1, could be 2, could be 11, who knows? Because these are all hearkening back to the original RPA. It may have been addended when it was written. There may have been RPA and addendum 1. Could have been a text overflow addendum even, right? Addendum 1. So we're incorporating all of the RPA and the seller counteroffer and the buyer counteroffer, and now the next seller counteroffer in the entire offer, so we can't be addendum 1 anymore. We already got one. Almost cost me a roof one time, that fight about which number addendum we were on with a transaction coordinator. But it didn't. And there's other check boxes, right? So there could be, let's say the buyer writes an offer and says, okay, seller's got to get out when it closes escrow. You got to be vacant at the close of escrow. Seller's like, hey, just like it said in the MLS and everywhere else, we're not leaving for a week, and we like your offer and all that stuff, but not enough to get out in time because we're building a house. We can't do it. So we got to change it. So we're going to put in the counteroffer, like, nope, we're going to stay there, up to 7 days after it closes, something like that. And the seller in possession addendum, because we have an addendum for the seller that's not leaving right away, is attached. So we check the box and we put in seller in possession addendum right there, and then it's attached.
If there's a text overflow addendum on the RPA, do you have to list that here as well?
I don't know. I've used them so few times that I think it comes up in whatever paragraph it didn't fit in. I think it says see text overflow addendum. Does it?
See
Yeah.
text overflow.
Okay.
Now, can you see the text overflow addendum? No. Not till you print or save the frickin' file, which to me is nutso. It's just like, I don't know, in space or something, until you tell it, okay, I'm done.
Pull it out.
And then you'll pull up your RPA because you're going to send it for signatures, and this text overflow addendum, which sometimes I didn't know I typed that much. Like, what the hell is that doing in there? I'll go back and retype the thing to get rid of the text overflow addendum. That's not the greatest thing they ever did, I think. But they serve a purpose. And if you need the extra verbosity to explain something, use it. It's like the thing automatically adds another page full of your explanation. Okay, phew. All right. So that's where you attach addenda, if attaching addenda is appropriate. Could be a seller financing addendum, could be virtually anything that would show up right there. And this is one instance where you're attaching stuff where it won't automatically show up. Because of the blank, the counteroffer form doesn't know what you're attaching. So if you check that box, you're going to get an addendum. It's going to show up. Addendum added to the file, or whatever the hell it says when it adds forms. When you hand type in there, seller in possession addendum, tenant in possession addendum, whatever it is, something like that, you got to go get it. It's not going to show up because it's not that smart yet. That'd be cool. Because it'd just be, and we're in. Okay, all right, all good. Expiration. This gets really complicated in the seller multiple counteroffer. We'll do that next. Paragraph 2, expiration. This seller counteroffer shall be deemed revoked and the deposits, if any, shall be returned. Oh, wait a minute. You think there's a deposit mentioned in the seller counteroffer? There might be, but is there always? That's probably a better question.
No.
No. Well, what the hell deposit are you even talking about there in your seller counteroffer? Nowhere on this page does it say anything about the deposit. It's back in the RPA or seller counteroffer 1 or buyer counteroffer 2 or something. Somewhere in the line, it's still hanging around. So the parts you don't change live on, right? So you got to be careful when you get to like counteroffer number 4. What's living and what's dying? I mean, that can be, you really got to be drinking coffee, not wine, and pay attention to what's going on with your paper.
Hey Gary, when you write after, let's say, counter number 4, and you write a new offer, does the date prepared change on that? Does it revert back to the original is what I'm getting at?
I wouldn't.
You're gonna write a new offer.
You're writing for the purpose of not writing counter.
Because we didn't used to have a date prepared. I think that's an excellent question, and I think I would begin with a new prepared date, because if I get seller counteroffer 1 on the new RPA, I don't want it to reference the old RPA with the old prepared date. That's how we'll tell them apart.
You're starting over.
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, start over. Start over, which is why we want to incorporate everything we got done so far, which is not the easiest thing to do. You better get that right. And when you're reviewing that for your client, the buyer's agent writes it and you're the listing agent reviewing it, you better make sure they got it all. Or you got to counter all the crap back in you really, really want it. It just makes it easier to keep up.
Oh yeah, because if you miss one thing, that might be something they just want to jump on.
Yep.
They will.
It might be a win there. So, and that agent has a fiduciary responsibility to put that client's, as do you, interests above all others. So you got to be honest and fair, but if somebody actually throws you a bone, it's like you're virtually duty bound, as long as it's not dishonest or unfair, to let your guy enjoy that little victory. That's probably a whole nother moral, legal, ethical discussion right there. That's a tough one. See the webinar yesterday? Anybody on procuring cause?
Yes.
It's not any easier now than it ever was.
I love the fact that they got it started late and they've been.
Oh, did it? Because me, I got on about 10 minutes after it
They've
started.
been talking.
And they hadn't got to the
They
checklist yet.
hadn't
Yeah, right?
started.
Yeah, sure. Yep. You guys will all be in procuring cause arbitrations later, fighting for the
It was
commission you thought
very
you should have had.
Yeah, I followed. I printed out the checklist.
Don't do that.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's probably around somewhere. So expiration. So the point of that whole discussion about what about the deposits and all that stuff? Why does all this stuff exist in here? This is a brand new offer, but incorporates part of the old offer. So the stuff that you change in your counteroffer is the new term. So what about the expiration date? You have a new expiration date. I don't care when whatever you're countering expired. You have a new expiration date on a new offer that incorporates all the crap from the old dead expired offer. So every once in a while, you'll see somebody that is bound and determined to write on a counteroffer form, expiration date is hereby changed to accommodate the signing, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to. It's a new offer. It doesn't care what the old expiration date does any more than does it care what the old price was. I see you're 700, I'm raising you to 800, but I didn't do it till a week after your offer expired. We're good. Sign it, we're in. Or counter it in a week. It's still legit. No one knows that. No one does it right. But it's fun to do it right every once in a while and have that argument with somebody. I mean, spirited discussion. Okay. So the expiration paragraph is virtually verbatim with a V, because I'm not really German. What's on paragraph, I think it's 31 in the RPA. Unless by 5 p.m. on the third day, after the date it is signed in paragraph 4, which is where the seller signs down there, it would be a different paragraph in the RPA, so that's different. But unless by 5 p.m. on the third day after the date it's signed, the last signature, or by X date, and a copy of the signed, because we're on the seller counteroffer, the signed seller counteroffer is personally received by seller or blank who is authorized to receive it, it's dead.
But is it really?
In and of itself, yes. Can you revive it? Yes. Counter it. Make it part of a whole brand new offer, yeah. Which is otherwise known in our trade as a counteroffer. Now it mentions the woo in here. I don't think it mentions that in the RPA. I just can't remember. It doesn't look familiar. So does anybody know what the acronym woo stands for? Withdrawal of offer. Yeah, we had a lot of fun when they first came out with that. Woo. They needed another form that was the whoo. Right? Woo-hoo. A seller so it's a seller counteroffer. So if seller says, here's my counteroffer, dude, write up my counteroffer, get it over to those people, and get them to see the light. It's out there languishing around for about 3 days. Buyer's got time. Buyer says, how long do we have to think about this? Well, Mr. Buyer, it says right here in paragraph 2, unless by 5 p.m. on the third day after the date it was signed, we can see that right down here in paragraph 4, it expires. Does it say revoked? Yeah, it's deemed revoked, and the deposits, if any, shall be returned. So expiration that's serious business. It's revoked. It's bye-bye, you're out here. So the seller sends it out, buyer's thinking about it, buyer thinks they got 3 days of thinking about it. In the meantime, is the seller still on the market?
Yes.
Does it say anything about that here? I think I jumped ahead. Paragraph 3, yeah. Seller has the right to continue to offer the property for sale. Seller has the right to accept any other offer received prior to acceptance of this counteroffer by the buyer. Right? So the seller, all of a sudden it's flavor of the month. One offer after 8 weeks on the market, so we counter the guy, we're just going to tweak him a little bit, and they're probably going to sign it. But for some reason, they want to play just a little bit of hardball and sit on it for a minute. So the market changes a little bit. The next day, the seller gets 3 offers. Well, it's hard to figure out what you're going to do in 1 minute with 3 offers, right? So the first thing they do is they take that counter offer back. And what's the most expeditious and efficient and quickest way to do that?
What?
Call them up.
Yeah.
Just call them up. Go, yeah, you know what? That counter offer is off the table. Now, phone calls are hard to track, right? So you kind of want to do that with an email. And as soon as possible, if you're not doing it all at the same time, you want to get that woo in there. Withdrawal of offer that says, like I said when I called you, we withdrew this offer at such and such a time on such and such a date and blah, 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 and you can sign it all you want. If you signed it after that, it wasn't there to sign.
But you could say, if I was a buyer's agent, I would say, well, what you got? you know, and then I go back to my buyers and say, do you want to match that or go higher and we'll make another counter? Is that the way, would I make another counter?
That is the segue of all time into the what? The seller multiple counter offer. So let's do that.
Okay, I'm sorry, so
No, sure, yeah.
before the 3
No more questions.
before the woo-hoo, I
The woo-woo.
send it
Woo-woo.
in, signed by my buyer, or
Those are
and
some of
then
the-
let them know that it was sent or whatever. They still need to sign the acceptance or no? I don't think, no, because
Yeah, let's talk about that.
basically what they're saying, the seller is saying if the buyer signs it, then we're under contract, I just need to sign it and send it back. You
So,
understand what I'm saying?
So the counter offer's out
Yeah,
for signature, so seller counters the buyer, right? Buyer's got it.
I signed it right
Thinking about
away,
what to do
sent
with it.
out.
Buyer signs it,
Uh-huh,
okay, and then what happens?
and then I send it right away,
Then you send it back,
okay, and then after.
and it's probably attached
I'm
to an
just
email or
waiting- yes,
something, right?
An email.
So it's got like a date and time and crap on the email, right?
Mhm.
It's delivered
Yes,
right then. Because
Okay.
email is virtually instant, right? It's like, did you get that email? Did you get that email? Yes. It takes about that long.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're really waiting for it, then it's like 20 minutes, you don't have it. You know.
okay, but then again, it shows that it went and they received it. After
That's a
it's been
done
signed-
deal.
yes,
That's a
yes.
done deal
Okay.
right there.
So
And
then the seller cannot tell me, you know what, they withdrew it.
No.
too late.
So see, okay,
Yeah.
now I understood it. This is what happened with the deal. She said, well, she received my offer and it was signed and everything. And I didn't know, I guess I was new. And they said, oh no, they received another offer, they went with the other one, even though we had signed this and it was already done.
Now, unfortunately,
Oh,
that's,
Was I was in contract, right?
yep.
Yep, you
Oh,
were,
If the seller got it back,
see, it's right there, but
Now,
that's where there's a catch 22.
there's kind of a catch 22.
Or the,
It
So
should have been
depending
the
what
agent should have
year
put their
that
name in
was,
there.
we used to have to put our name in there all the
Absolutely.
time. The last iteration of the RPA
Right.
puts it in there for you.
Automatically.
so
Yeah.
once they received it, their name was there.
As soon as the
I was-
agent got it back,
Yeah.
Then
Deal.
it's a legal,
Yep.
It's a
legally
deal.
bound.
that's a binding contract. Now,
So-
what are contracts for in California? Why are contracts made? To be broken. How do we enforce contracts? We
Yeah.
go to court.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so,
Big high dollar stuff all the time. This job
Look at
should
that.
pay even
Yeah.
better than it does.
Oh, it was about a year ago.
Right? It's
But then
complicated.
again, you know, that's what I'm
Complicated.
learning, and I'm thinking, what the hell, what,
Yep.
aren't we in
So
contract?
that,
Yep.
is there a?
So can
I
you
would,
with,
I would go
That's what
after your
happened, and I was
commission.
like,
right? Yeah.
I would totally go after your commission.
You have earned the commission, you have a case for procuring cause,
absolutely
and if
have.
I'm on that panel, you just
I
might
would
win. I'm
totally
just
right now
saying.
go after your
Right.
commission.
wow.
Yep.
How long ago was
They're
this?
gonna go- Yeah, about a year.
I would,
About a year?
Uh-huh,
yeah.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as it's about 6 months, I don't know when the clock runs out on that. I guess I wasn't paying attention to the webinar.
I don't know, but, oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We used to, I think you gotta file within 6 months or some crap like that. So we always used to file on like day 179 and just come out of nowhere.
Now, I will,
Win every time.
I will say this,
Does it have to sign
Have all my places?
the
No,
receipt too?
no,
Same day
and
they
when
got
it's
3
delivered,
offers.
it says
Oh,
once
okay.
it's received, and I would,
I had to go to court.
Uh-huh.
you know, I would,
Yeah, let's talk about that right there. Confirmation of acceptance. Read along with me now, right?
okay.
Confirmation of acceptance. So
Okay.
the agent for who, or it could be this. So this is a seller counter offer. So buyer signs it, sends it back. And the important part of the confirmation of acceptance paragraph is right there in 8-point bold. The binding agreement is created when a copy of the signed acceptance is personally received by seller or seller's authorized agent, whether or not confirmed in this document. Those initials mean nothing. Very helpful, but they
Yeah.
mean nothing.
Yeah, it's.
And when they
nothing.
initial it
That's
later
just
and
more-
they put the new
Okay.
date in there, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It has to be the date. It's you're confirming acceptance, so listing agent, you better know when acceptance was.
Yeah,
And you do, right? All you gotta do is look at your stupid email and it says right on there,
That's right
August
there.
3rd at
Yeah.
9:52 p.m. That's when it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
no, yeah, I would try,
Yeah, just look into it.
I would try, and I
Yeah,
would
that's
talk
what
to
I
the
thought.
agent, I would talk to the broker.
They call
The
it-
broker's got a file you can't
Your
file.
broker
I would
needs
have
to
to-
contact their broker, because it's a broker thing, it's not.
Yeah, see,
I think
that's
after a
the
year,
thing.
maybe that ship has
After
sailed though.
so long,
Okay, cool.
not really getting clear on that, so now I'm like, okay, what happened?
Yeah, that's
Now I
good, that's what
understand.
happened.
So paragraph 4, seller makes a counteroffer, right? Signs it. Buyer doesn't like everything about the counteroffer, right? So the buyer's gonna sign it in paragraph 5. But they don't want it, they want some changes. So what do?
Subject to.
They subject to.
Yeah.
Somebody better remember to put an X in that box. You will get busted for that. Agents jump all over that crap. You signed it. We're in escrow at $950. Oh my God, my guy's only got $700,000. I can't do that. There's a counteroffer attached to that, you idiot. You didn't check the box.
Yep.
So it could be problematic. Check the box so that you don't have to go to war and win that fight, because I bet you can win it. For crying out loud, you attached it and sent it to them. Okay, did I forget to check the box or forget to send you the counteroffer? I got the important part done, I just forgot to check the box. So don't forget to check the box. And you can tell DocuSign, send that form with that box checked if you want to. There's a little place where instead of going like, okay, somebody pay attention, somebody better click on that box and check it. You can put a check mark in there, and there's a little box in DocuSign says you want that checked. Yep, check it. And then that's just part of the form. Yeah, so it didn't used to be that way. That's a lot better. So the buyer's going to make a counteroffer. Bing. Buyer counteroffer. You gotta remember to go in and take those out when you do that, or none of the forms will ever come back. I'm like, where in the hell? And then after 7 or 8 minutes, you can click that little red X and that thing will go away. What about here? What about there? How about that? Okay, so there's the buyer counteroffer. Virtually the only thing different about the buyer counteroffer is everywhere that it said seller counteroffer, now it says buyer counteroffer. Seller counteroffer number 1 is countered with buyer counteroffer number 1. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. So if you do buyer counteroffer number 1 to seller, so seller counteroffer number 1, buyer counteroffer number 1, and then seller counteroffer number 2, well then you go get, there it is, buyer counteroffer number 2, and it has a 2 on it. So they've done all that for you. They're getting carried away here. Buyer counteroffer number 6.
Holy moly.
Gary, they got rid of all those with the empty.
Yep, no more blanks.
Well, I just used one here a few weeks ago.
Shouldn't have been in zip forms with
forms.
online. It could have been in the desktop if you didn't update or something. Or it's shouldn't have been if it was in an old template. The templates will update, but files are a snapshot in time. You can freeze an old form in a file.
About a month ago.
Yeah, that could be.
And
Yeah, that form
I just pulled
is.
it in because it was a counter because the agent didn't put date prepared. I mean, there was a lot of, he missed 8 things. So I countered him on his original.
So that's been a while because that buyer counteroffer with the 1 in it got changed in November of 2014. That's a
Wow.
5-year-old form. I don't know how you did that.
I don't either.
I'm amazed.
I didn't realize I did it.
Maybe I'm amazed.
But I typed the word 1 in it.
All the same stuff. Paragraphs in the offer, down payment, all the way down to the very bottom, confirmation of acceptance, where a binding agreement is created with a copy of signed acceptance, whether a copy of signed acceptance is personally received by, or when a copy is personally received by buyer or buyer's authorized agent, who is authorized automatically in the RPA now, and you didn't used to be, but now you are. So now if you forget to put your name in there and somebody busts your chops for it, take them to the RPA, go find out where it is because I forgot. And tell them, hey, I'm it. That's going back to like 1989. It used to be in there. Notices to the agent were considered notices to the client. Then they took it out, and I thought, okay, that's not gonna help, what are you guys doing? Silly people. So buyer counteroffer, come on, stop doing that. Number one works just like seller counteroffer number one. You can withdraw it before it's accepted, and the seller can accept it with changes. So the seller can accept it subject to the attached counteroffer and send seller counteroffer number 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so on, and they told 12, and they told 12. So I wondered how come Neil Kalin could do like an hour on the counter offer and the multiple counter offer. They did them all. I just did an hour on the seller counter offer. Like, how the hell does that happen? Looks like next week we're gonna, because this one is difficult. It's in English and it's on the form, but you got to make sure you know how this thing works, because you're going to get pushed back on this all day long. I've had agents refuse to deal with me when I used a multiple counteroffer form, which is the savior of all counteroffers. Because everything else, we used to go to arbitration right and left and win the commission on a fax stamp. Hopefully the clock was set on the damn fax machine. This takes care of all that confusion and falderall. What I will leave you with today, though, is like in Noemi's example, or any example, I guess. So seller makes a counteroffer, talking about the woo. So seller makes a counteroffer to the buyer. Buyer's thinking about it. Seller gets 3 more offers. Seller sends a woo to the buyer that says, he sends a Cindy Lou woo. Sends a woo to the buyer withdrawing the seller counteroffer, and there's some check boxes and crap right on the woo to say, hey, pay attention here. I'm withdrawing your seller counteroffer and I'm replacing it with a seller multiple counteroffer. So when you've got a counteroffer out and you're gonna go multiple counteroffer to maybe including those guys, pull that counteroffer back before, in the middle of your brilliance with the other 3 people, they sign it. You just lost all 3 of them guys and opened escrow with this guy, as long as you got it back to you in time. That concludes today's lesson on the counteroffer. It was basically only the seller counteroffer. Jesus. All right, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks Santa Maria for hanging around. Yes. And now questions. Is that brand new?
No, this
Oh
is from,
no, I was going to say, look at those.
oldie.
Look at that NCR paper in there. Yeah.
This book is from 2002.
Yeah, one of the big changes. 02. That's when we went to the perennial contingency. They took out hard dates on the contingency.
Yeah, and then this is.
That didn't help either. That
This
took
is
a
from
long time.
2006. This is an RPA.
That's not the one where there's 6 pages,
Yeah, 6 pages.
but 2 of them are front and back or
No, this
something.
is 8.
That's 8?
Yeah, this is 8.
Yeah, they knew we hated pages, so they tried to slip us a 6-pager that was disguised
And
as
the
a 4-pager
inspection
one time.
advisory, yeah, all carbons.
It's one more.
I remember them days.
Yeah, this is from 06.
Hey Gary,
You're out of
Carbon.
here. Yep.
license and
So you
possession.
had you had the master copy, I'm trying to remember, master
So in the
copy,
license and
buyer's
possession, it
copy,
states,
seller's copy.
Um,
And then you photocopied
Yeah.
for escrow, so it was just 3. And then you photocopied for escrow.
so so if you want a possession fee, the buyer